Welcome back. A children's rights organisation, Save the Children, says the state in South Africa has failed to put children's rights at the centre of its plans, announced during its State of the Nation address yesterday. The organisation says this will hinder the capacity of children to reach their full potential. Save the Children says it is dismayed that children's rights were once again ignored in the state plan announced during the State of the Nation address yesterday. The organisation says it is demanding the government makes every effort to address any impediment to safe access to basic services for all children, including those affected by migration and displacement. South Africa has committed to the realisation of children's rights through its constitution, the National Development Plan 2030, the fourth National Plan of Action for Children that was endorsed by Cabinet on the 21st of October 2020, the National Child Care and Protection Policy and other international obligations. To speak a little bit more about this, we're joined by Steve Miller, South African CEO of Save the Children. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Mr. Miller. I'm wondering, with all of those legislations that I was reading out, so where do children fall in the cracks, as you say, that they are there, but government has failed to address their needs in the State of the Nation address yesterday?
Yeah, well, good evening to you and to your viewers, and thank you for having us on. As you mentioned in your intro, we are very disappointed again, and it's not us, it's everybody in this movement for child rights. That children weren't placed at the very center of government priorities in the statement last night. I think, you know, in a short answer to your question, South Africa has perhaps the most progressive constitution in the world, and we have an incredible legal framework for children, including our Children's Act. We don't lack for the legal framework. And we also have a plan. The National Plan of Action for Children it's a brilliant plan. A lot of people have put a lot of time into this, and it really would be an answer to a lot of our issues here in South Africa. The problem is a lack of political will. There's not a whole of government approach behind this, and a lack of investment. And we really would have liked to have heard something about children and their rights and how important they are to this country in the Sona speech last night.
And I'm going to bring up the name of Michael Gomab, and you'll tell me if you agree with me that when you're talking about equalizing their development, there needs to be a national sustainable development priority. It's very emotive, because I think even though a lot of people knew that there were children who were still forced to use pit latrines, just the imagery of a little boy like that falling into that, I mean the science behind it of what actually happens when somebody falls into a pit latrine and how quickly it engulfs them, really brought home that infrastructurally government really isn't doing enough. Government has said, well, it's put aside money and it's difficult, budgetary constraints. So when you talk about this, a National Sustainable Development Priority Plan, what do you have in mind to remove some of these incidents from the narrative of child rights in the education system in South Africa?
Yeah, you know, this is what child rights is all about, essentially. Is that we happen to live in the most unequal society in the world, you know, so far into the democratic era, and still our children have such different opportunities in life. And this is going to, the way our world looks today, is going to have impact for decades to come, because children growing up in that type of situation who aren't given the education, the healthcare, the attention, the support, the nutrition that they need to develop correctly, this affects their trajectory throughout life. And a child rights approach is essentially saying, this is not something that we do because it makes us feel good to build infrastructure or to invest our time. This is not a charity. We're not doing this for the sake of charity. This is an absolute right for all children in this country. It doesn't matter who they are or where they are from. They have an absolute right to a quality education, and that includes decent infrastructure. And the government certainly has the key role, as I was saying earlier, but it needs to be a whole of government approach. You don't take children and sit it in the Department of Social Development or in the Department of Education, because a child's life involves a lot of different actors. And that's why it needs to be led from the very top, from the president himself, putting in his office, in the presidency, an office for the rights of the child, resourcing that office correctly, mainstreaming children's issues throughout all the departments. And then on top of that, bringing in the other development partners and collaborating with them. We were hoping to talk about a national child rights conference in 2022, which would be led by the president and bring together all these actors. There's a movement for children, people who understand that this is the key to South Africa's future, as it were, to bring those forces together to work to change things, the private sector as well. So yes, the government does have a role when it comes to things like infrastructure. That's a focus that we have, but it's a multifaceted issue, and it requires the whole of government, and it requires others in society to all play the same game.
But Steve, can I ask you this question? Can I ask you this question? A conference focusing on, as you mentioned, Section 28 of the Bill of Rights to ensure that there's mandated action by government, a government that takes accountability. What will it change? Because you've just spoken about the role of the state in its entirety. As you say, it should begin with government to lead the way, but there are all of those social and development partners such as yourself, Section 27, etc., the pressure groups that ensure that government does all of these things. So what would a conference help, and what would you have expected to hear differently from the President in his State of the Nation address, particularly, as you say, we've got great legislation. It's been said consistently across all sectors. Implementation is what is lacking.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. A conference is not going to solve our issues, that's true. But it will bring together the players who are in this space, who at the moment don't coordinate as well as they could do. There's a lot of duplication. There's a lot of people working in their own corners. So if we could come together and really prioritize child rights, understand it, educate people who need to be educated on what it is and how to hold others accountable. And then, most importantly, I think, is the investment that's lacking here right now. Again, to come back to that National Plan of Action for Children, it's been costed. We know how much it would cost to implement this, and then there's different scenarios as well. And even the lowest level of investment for this particular plan, we're not even close to that right now. It's about sort of putting your money where your mouth is. And obviously, the government has a lot of priorities. We understand that. We heard that in the SONA last night as well. But we feel, and it's not just us at Save the Children. Again, there's a movement, and I'm sure you feel the same way too. We understand that we really have to now invest in children. So a conference, it's not going to solve everything, but it will be a statement out there. We'll bring people together, and hopefully out of that we'll get some real commitments that we can work with going forward. But if I could say, and sorry, I don't mean to speak too long, but this is, you hit the nail on the head, this is a whole of society issue as well. Every single one of us, South Africans, are implicated in the situation we see today. A lot of us sit on the sidelines and we complain about it, and we wring our hands and we worry about what's going to happen. But we are all implicated, and we all can get involved in our different ways, big and small, as individuals. And until we do that, until the norms change around how we see violence against women and children, for example, until we stand up and do something about that, like I'm sure you do, like I do, like many people around us do, until we all do that, of course, nothing's going to change. Conference isn't going to change this. But it does start somewhere. And the signaling, the symbolism of something like the SONA is very important.
I mean, you make very intriguing points in your statement about obviously pointing out the state's responsibility with regards to health, safety, basic nutrition, social services. But you say every child has a right to be treated in a manner and kept in conditions that take account of the child's age and have a legal practitioner assigned to the child by the state at the state expense in civil proceedings affecting the child. A substantial injustice would otherwise result. How would that be envisaged here in South Africa? Because, as you say, it's enshrined in the Bill of Rights. The state has it in its policies. But how do you envisage it living up to this?
I think if I can use the Children's Act as an example. So that Children's Act, like I mentioned, we can be proud of it. It's a real example of good practice, really. The theory is fantastic. And it's mostly about prevention and early intervention. So to stopping things before they happen and get bad for children. But in reality, what we do mostly is we react. We wait for something to happen, and then we react, and we don't have enough resources, we don't have enough shelters, alternative care, social workers, etc. So we're sort of running behind. But if we can shift our focus, again, prioritize this at the national level, bring people together, really send the messages out, but also focus on prevention, on stopping things before they start, on making sure that children are protected so that they're never subject to abuse in the first place, then, of course, I think we can get on top of this. But that's a step change. I mean, that's something really difficult to do, and I don't have all the answers for that. We're a wounded country. I think when if I could say, when you talk about violence in our society as an example, we have a long history of.
Oh, Steve, I don't know what happened there. We've multiplied you and lost the sound. Steve Miller is a Save the Children South African CEO. An organization that is expressing disappointment that President Cyril Ramaphosa failed to focus on these very aspects.